You found yourself on another edition of Let 'em Know Kings of the 313, and on today's episode, the Oklahoma City Thunder gave the Detroit Pistons a reality check as they cruised over Detroit 124-112 as the Detroit Pistons played from behind all night, and they never had any fight. We're going to recap this game as well as preview a playoff rematch between the Knicks and the CAVS. All that coming up on Let 'em Know Kings of the 313. Let's go. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in the place to be, it is that time for the post-game reaction podcast to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Pistons from the D. This is Let 'em Know Kings in the 3-1-3. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to a special Halloween edition of Let 'em Know Kings in the 313. This is your Cleveland Cavaliers, Detroit Pistons, and Sacramento Kings post-game reaction podcast. And of course, I am your host, Skylar Weisberg. Happy Halloween, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. As a reminder, you can find Let 'em Know Kings in the 313 on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Radio Public, and wherever you want to listen to this show. Give the show a follow on the platforms. If you can please go to anchor.fm/CLESK313. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app. If you can give Let 'em Know Kings in the 313 a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on and spread the word out to your friends, it is another great way to support the Let 'em Know Kings in the 313 podcast. And once again, I thank each and every one of you so much for tuning in, whether you are a Cleveland Cavalier fan, a Sacramento Kings fan, a Detroit Pistons fan, or a basketball fan in general. Thank you once again for tuning in to Let 'em Know Kings in the 313. Well, last night didn't go to plan for the Detroit Pistons last night. It actually was a night that the Pistons were given a reality check, and a reality check that I call an embarrassing game. I think the Pistons played one of the worst games in the Monty Williams era. Now, granted, it's only 4 games, and it is a really, really bad loss. 124-112 was the final score. But you were facing an Oklahoma City Thunder team that, coming into this game, they got smoked by the reigning defending undisputed NBA champion Denver Nuggets. I think it was 124-95 was the final score going into the game. And the Thunder head coach Mark Daigneault, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I can't even pronounce names worth of spit sometimes on this show. But he challenged the team, the Thunder, that is, on the approach of the game. And safe to say, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they responded to their head coach really well. And by the way, Mark D, I'm calling him Mark D from now on. Coach Mark D has given the Thunder a lot of spark. And look at them now. They are 3-1 after this game, while our Detroit Pistons are 2-2. I want to talk about the Thunder. They did an amazing job in this game, especially 2 people in particular. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander dropped a game-high 32 in this game. Chet Holmgren, he did his part as well. Dort did an amazing job. The Thunder did a better job than the Detroit Pistons in shooting the ball and getting back in transition. The Thunder in this game shot 53% from the field, and they did a really good job of getting the ball in transition and forcing us to play transition defense, which, by the way, we did a terrible job at last night. I mean, At times, I thought that the Pistons were too slow getting back to the ball, especially when you have shooters like Giddey, Alexander, and Chet Holmgren, who we left open, I think, a couple times from three. If the Thunder get open looks in transition, chances are 9 times out of 10, they're going to make us pay every darn time. About Coach Mark D for the Thunder, they said, obviously, we did a really great job of getting to 0-0. And that is a critical skill in the NBA that scales and applies to every game. Whether you're coming off a good game winning streak, bad game losing streak, you've got to wake up 0-0. I thought the guys did a great job of that today with very little nudge on our part. I thought they got themselves there. I want to go in on that because I think that is what the Detroit Pistons need to learn, and to some extent the Cleveland Cavaliers need to learn. Not that much of Sacramento because I trust Mike Brown and I trust his accountability for a second. But when Coach Mark D says, you gotta wake up 0-0, that means you gotta go 1-0. 1-0 every day, 1-0 every game, and even to some extent, 1-0 every practice. I felt as if the Thunder were a bunch of wounded animals tonight, and the Thunder did a really good job of responding. I know they're a good team. I know they have a lot of talent, and if I would know my brother's team really well, by the way, shout out to my brother that has not listened to this show, but he is a Thunder fan, and I'm talking about the OKC Thunder for a second. I knew the Thunder had that much talent on their roster to go lying down to a Pistons team that looked really good coming in. That surprised a lot of people, but can I really say surprising after the effort that Detroit gave? I don't think I can. I don't think I can say that the Detroit Pistons surprised some people. I mean, look at the wins that they got. Look at the games they played. They played a good quality team on opening night against the Eastern Conference champions. They dominated the Charlotte Hornets right out of the gym. They took care of business against the Chicago Bulls, despite the fact that Zach LaVine, dropped 51 points. And then they went to Oklahoma City and laid the biggest egg on the court tonight. The biggest thing that I said about the Detroit Pistons, they need to win this game on the defensive side of the ball, especially in transition. I think for the most part, as a team, we were horrible. We were horrible on that extent. I want to give credit to the Oklahoma City Thunder because the Thunder did a really good job of initializing transition offense. It was almost to a certain extent like the Thunder wanted to use a fast break game on Detroit and they wanted to force us to play transition defense. Credit to Mark D and the Thunder. They executed their game plan really, really perfectly. And there was one player for the Detroit Pistons that really impressed, and it was rookie Ausar Thompson. And he got the opportunity to guard one of the league's elite scorers in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And for the most part, he hung in there. He hung tough against one of the talented scorers in the league. Mark D said about Ausar Thompson, he's an impressive competitor. Great athlete. The best defenders in the NBA have a mindset. They're not shutting anybody out, but they're making the other team earn it. And I thought he made Shai earn it tonight. And for the most part, Ausar Thompson, you're going to get a lot of credit here. You did a really good job of making Shai Gilgeous-Alexander earn his shots. Did he make a lot of shots? Absolutely he did. Were they tough shots? On some extent, yes. But you did a good job of not letting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander get wide open. And you know what? About the Thunder, Mark D said they were also not surprised. I mean, he's as steady as they come, speaking of SGA. If there's one thing that we learned from him over the last few years, it's that his ability to stay consistent through the ups and downs of the season was absolutely really impressive. And to that some extent, kudos to the Oklahoma City Thunder on that. And I also want to give kudos to the OKC Thunder on is that they were more physical than us. It wasn't like the Detroit Pistons type of physicality that they did against Charlotte, but I think they watched film of that game and they said, you know what, this is how we should beat this team. We should be more physical than them and limit Jalen Duren. And they did an amazing job of limiting Jalen Duren. I got to give credit to him for that. And I got to give credit to them also of containing Cade Cunningham and forcing guys like Ausar Thompson, guys like Killian Hayes, who was so inconsistent in shooting the ball. I mean, my God, can we please get him out of the starting lineup? I mean, I get that's Monty Williams' vision of the starting lineup to prioritize some defense, but I am sorry, I have to tell everybody the truth. Killian Hayes cannot shoot the ball worth a damn. He cannot. He really cannot. I would put Jaden Ivey in the starting lineup because he dropped 20 points tonight, 27 points on some level. And he was clearly the better shooter than Killian Hayes tonight. But the Thunder did a really good job of being more physical than Detroit. Monty Williams said in this game they were physical all night long. They had a tough loss last night. We knew that they were going to come in like a wounded animal. And they played with a lot more physicality than fight than we did for long stretches. It was almost as if the Detroit Pistons left their game at Little Caesars Arena. They left their physicality in Charlotte, and they left their heart at Little Caesars Arena against the Chicago Bulls, because I did not see no heart, no fight, no grit, no toughness, absolutely no physicality. The Detroit Pistons were like pillows tonight. I'm not saying everybody was like that. Some people really stood out. Speaking of Jaden Ivey, speaking of Ausar Thompson, and Cade Cunningham, just to name a few. But everybody else, they were soft as pillows. And you know why they were soft? And that's because they were so undisciplined. They were so undisciplined tonight. Monty Williams said this: we have to stick to our identity, which is defending, playing with great effort, and having great discipline. Tonight was one of those first times I didn't see discipline at a great level. It was inconsistent. And that's the same thing that I feared coming back to my childhood team of the Detroit Pistons. Looking at what they did record-wise last year, I saw that the Detroit Pistons were an inconsistent team, meaning they played a really good game 2 nights, and then the next 2 nights they played absolutely terrible. And you know what? I think that is the perks, or some odd perks, of being a Detroit Pistons fan, because in order for the Pistons to get wherever they need to go, and that is the NBA championship at the end of the day, they need to learn how to play with consistency. They need to learn how to play with toughness. They need to learn how to defend well. They need to learn how to be more physical in every single aspect of the game. And right now, the Thunder did a better job than the Detroit Pistons of it last night, and that's why they won this game. And they also won this game by shooting 53% from the field compared to 42% for the Detroit Pistons. As far as three-point percentage, pretty even as far as the stat line goes. 15 to 28 for the Detroit Pistons, better for them. 54% compared to 45 for the OKC Thunder. The free throw percentage, 82% for OKC compared to 80% for the Detroit Pistons. The rebounding, slight edge to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 44 to 41, but 13 offensive rebounds for the Detroit Pistons compared to just 6. I think Detroit did a good job of not only getting the offensive glass, but they also shared the basketball really well. 31 to 21 in favor of the Pistons as far as the assist goes, but 17 turnovers for the Pistons. Again, I think the Pistons need to learn how to play better on controlling the ball, and they need to learn ball security. This isn't a football show, but the Detroit Pistons did not do a good job of taking care of the basketball for the most part. Jaden Ivey was the only guy that stood out coming out of the bench, 4 for 6 from three-point range. He finished with 20 points with 3 assists, a steal, and a block, and a couple of boards. Alec Burks, he was also hot from 3 with 11 points. He was 3 for 4 on his 3-point shots with 7 assists and 2 rebounds. Ausar Thompson had another double-double tonight, 15 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, assists, three assists, and a steal. A good game from him. Cade Cunningham, he got 17 points, and he was 3 for 7 from 3. His 3-point shot is coming along, but 7 turnovers for Cade Cunningham. That's a little bit worrisome for me. I think Cade Cunningham needs to work on controlling the basketball and making sure that he's in the right spot. Jalen Duren, I am surprised that he was off tonight. 8 points, 7 rebounds, and it was just a really off night for the Junkyard Dog, but he's going to bounce back, though. As far as OKC, SGA, 32 points. He also had 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. Chet Holmgren, 14 points with 3 assists, 2 steals, 4 rebounds. He was 4 for 5 from 3-point range. At one point, we left him wide open. Giddey had 21 points. He had 7 rebounds and 3 assists and a steal and a block. J. Will, 19 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and a steal tonight. Dort did a really good job with 7 points. It was an overall more complete game for the OKC Thunder rather than the Detroit Pistons. And like I said at the top of the show, the OKC Thunder gave the Detroit Pistons a reality check on how we should win, and we need to learn how to win consistently and play a complete defensive effort. We will see how the Detroit Pistons respond as they are in a back-to-back situation with the Portland Trail Blazers and Scoot Henderson coming to Little Caesars Arena tomorrow before traveling to New Orleans to take on Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans. Coming up next, we are going to preview a big-time playoff rematch between the Knicks and the Cavs. And for the Cavaliers, this is personal. We're going to tell you why right after this on Let 'Em Know Kings in the 3-1-3. We're back on Let 'Em Know Kings in the 3-1-3, and coming up tonight, it is a personal playoff rematch for the Cleveland Cavaliers as they take on the New York Knicks in the first game of a home-and-home series, as the Knicks and Cavaliers will square off tonight at 7:30 p.m. on TNT. It is a national televised game for the Cleveland Cavaliers against New York, and then the next day they will travel to Madison Square Garden to take on the Knicks in New York. I will not be able to watch that game live, so tomorrow's show, when I recap the Cavs and Knicks game in New York, actually Thursday's show, when I recap the Cavs and the Knicks game from New York, it is going to be really, really difficult for me because I would rather prefer watching the Knicks and the Cavs live. But in my home studios in New Jersey, I do not have the Madison Square Garden network, and I know that NBA League Pass is blacked out. To some extent, maybe I can find the way to listen to the Cavs on the radio and listen to my Cavalier radio guys, but it would rather be much more difficult for me to recap the game, because I would rather be a person that sees the game and rather recaps the game after watching the game, but that's beside the point. The point is, this is a really pivotal, personal playoff rematch for the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 1-2 coming into this game. Both teams are 1-2 coming into this game, but the Cavaliers are 0-2 inside Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse compared to 1-1 away from Madison Square Garden for the New York Knicks. As far as the key matchups, you already know what the New York Knicks are coming with. They got Jalen Brunson, who absolutely killed us in the playoffs last year. Josh Hart, who absolutely killed us. Julius Randle, he is a straight-up bum. I mean, I hate to be honest if you're a Knicks fan listening to this, but Julius Randle is an absolute bum. I am surprised that the New York Knicks didn't even trade him in the offseason. R.J. Barrett is looking really good to start off the season. Emmanuel Quickley is looking good to start off the year. As far as Cleveland, we are not looking great right now. I mean, we're looking good as far as the offense, but we are without 2 or 3 of our starters. We're going to be without Jared Allen for like the 4th consecutive game due to an ankle injury. We're going to be without Darius Garland, who is day-to-day with a hamstring injury. And now I'm a little worried because we might be without Donovan Mitchell. For the 2nd consecutive game, we might be without Donovan Mitchell, and that is not good. That is not good for me as a Cavs fan because we need Donovan Mitchell. We need the 4-5. We need the Spider to show up and show out because if he doesn't play, I don't know what his injury status is as of this recording. He is questionable coming into this game. If he don't play, we're done. We are going to be in so much trouble. And I mean, look, Karis LeVert and Max Strus have been doing a really good job off the bench of providing a spark for the offense. But my biggest weakness for the Cleveland Cavaliers right now is we are not playing to our defensive identity. We're not. We're not the number 1 defense in the NBA right now. We were last year, but we're not right now. And I know the only big guy that we have is Evan Mobley, but without Jared Allen, it's going to force us to team rebound as a team. And when you go back to the playoffs, for giving more context into this, the New York Knicks did a better job of rebounding than us. The Knicks were more physical than us, and it showed in the NBA playoffs of last year. And now that you're going to be without Jared Allen for the 3rd straight game, I think it's going to put more pressure on Evan Mobley to step up. I'm not saying that he could step up because he is a really talented player, do not get me wrong, but it puts more and more pressure on the Cavaliers to play team defense. We're also going to be without Ty Jerome in this game. The full injury status is Donovan Mitchell is day-to-day with a hamstring injury. Darius Garland is also day-to-day with a hamstring injury. Jared Allen is going to be out with an ankle injury. And Ricky Rubio, he is out for mental health issues for personal reasons. I really hope that Ricky Rubio is doing really well. I hope he's mentally and emotionally healthy because that is the most important thing. And we really want to see Ricky Rubio back on the floor because he is a floor general and we need a floor general because the other weakness for the Cleveland Cavaliers is we do not have a true point guard. So I think the lack of a true backup point guard for Darius Garland and the lack of defensive identity at this point is going to put us at a disadvantage. Now, don't get me wrong. I expect the Cavs to bounce back and respond well. After 2 tough home losses against OKC and Indiana, at points that the Cavs were into both of those games, it was just that one bad run that we gave up, and that allowed the Pacers and the Thunder, respectively, to put the Cavs away. I need to see if the Cleveland Cavaliers learned how to finish. If the Cleveland Cavaliers can play their game, they can get shots up and learn how to finish games. But if they allow the New York Knicks to basically do what they did in the NBA playoffs, meaning if the Knicks are more physical than the Cavaliers tonight, we are going to have a problem. And in the spirit of Halloween, I really hope that the Cleveland Cavaliers will give us, Cavs fans, a really good treat for Halloween and not get tricked, because the last thing I would want is the Cleveland Cavaliers to go 0-3 inside Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, drop to 1-3, and then we're going to be in a must-win situation heading in to Madison Square Garden. I do not want that to happen. Give me the Cavaliers to win, but I need to see the Cleveland Cavaliers play a better brand of basketball, meaning I need to see flow on offense, more physicality on defense, and when we get a lead, we need to learn how to finish games. Do not let the New York Knicks get into one big run that could potentially cost us another victory. We need to win this game. We need to win this game to get ourselves right back on track and feel good about ourselves going into Madison Square Garden on Wednesday night. That's going to do it for today's edition of Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313. You can find this show on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, and wherever you listen to this show. Give the show a follow on the platforms. Go to anchor.fm/CLESK313. That is the official show website of the Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313 podcast. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends. Give Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313 a 5-star review. I'm Skylar Weisberg. If you are trick-or-treating, be safe out there. Happy Halloween, everybody, and I will see you right back here for another episode of Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313.